And joining us now here today is Gary Tabach, former Chief of Staff at the NATO Military Liaison Mission in Moscow. Hello and welcome once again to TVP World.
Hello, TVP team. Always happy to be on board.
So the South Korean military, highly sophisticated, operating in a constant state of vigilance and also equipped with a powerful industrial base. But what are the specific advantages for Poland when it comes to obtaining equipment from this particular source?
Well, I was not only, I don't know why people always introduce me as a Chief of Staff at the NATO mission in Moscow. I'm also very, very proud that I was part of an excellent team, a U.S. team in Poland that was part of ODC, Office of Defense Cooperation, when last century, in the beginning of this century, about 20 years ago, I can't believe time flies so fast, we were transferring frigates, helicopters, and F-16s to Poland, and I was part of that team. And as your previous speaker said, that there are such things as there is a cooperation. It's not just buying equipment from the United States or from Korea or from Italy or Germany. It's in cooperation building a weapon. Like F-16s have parts that are made in Poland called offsets. And that way, we don't depend completely on one country. An example we have now is when U.S. refused to transfer weapons to Israel. Well, Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu came out and said, listen, you can't treat partners like that, because part of that weapon system we are, just like in Patriots and the Iron Dome, F-35, F-22, the helmets, the electronics and things like this. So again, of course, they keep saying, you can't talk to us like this, but yet still gave the F-15s to Israel the very next day. So you don't become complete, because sales of weapons is not just business, it's a political influence. If you completely depend, like for instance, India depended on a Russian or a Soviet military equipment, they kept telling them what to do. Otherwise they say, well, we'll stop providing it to you and you lose the war to Pakistan or to whomever. So of course, that way, what your previous speaker was saying, it's very, very good, because you're not only getting the weapons from South Korea, you're working with them and you taking part, you're partners in it. Of course, Putin realizes that and starts threatening. And I think the threat is towards Poland, because he's saying if South Korea will start providing indirectly weapons to Ukraine, then they're going to be in a very big trouble. And I think he's probably insinuating that Poles will get the weapons, will get South Korean weapons and will transfer their own weapons or transfer some of those weapons to Ukraine. And South Koreans' argument is, well, if you're dealing with North Korea and you're having trade with them, it's just fair that we will deal with Ukraine or other countries to sell our weapons. Of course, it's not a fair deal, because Russia and North Korea are the aggressors, and South Korea and Ukraine are not threatening world peace like they do. And in my days, we used to judge how good the weaponry is of the country depending on how good is their auto industry is. So in the 50s and 60s, Americans built huge cars, big cars, beautiful cars. And of course, we had the very good weaponry at the time, the best in the world. But now we can see that auto industry of South Korea is pretty much beating everyone, including Japanese and the Germans.
You mentioned that the diversification of military sources, which we see now as Poland is implementing these new ideas. But what lies ahead for Poland? Do you think that over time this will enable Poland, for instance, to develop and perhaps produce the next generation military platforms domestically, and this might increase now the defense sovereignty and reduce perhaps reliance on foreign partners? What do you think?
Well, I'm biased in those kind of opinions, because I have a piece of my heart is in Poland, and therefore I always believed in Poland. I always thought it was going to be a leading nation in Europe in many aspects, including military. And what you're doing right now is exactly that. It's very, very smart that you're diversifying, that you're dealing with all kinds of countries, progressive countries in the sense of military equipment and democracy. Combination of both is very, very important. So I think Poland will be one of the major weapon suppliers and modern military in general. And I mean, I can't say anything else because I think everybody can see that it's happening. And this is a very smart move to deal and become partners with one of the most advanced companies. And, you know, I used to fly to Poland and a couple of times flew from Poland to Israel when I was stationed in Poland. And it was full of business people. It was full of business people. And I could tell in their faces that they were military, high-tech type of people. So it was already 20 years ago Poland started to work on it. It's not an overnight deal. It takes a long time. And I think your video now is showing how advanced and how far Poland got and continues in that direction.
So speaking of military equipment, there has been a discussion concerning the shortage of air defense systems in Ukraine, but also beyond. According to a recent article, the US is going to redirect some of its Patriot missiles, for example, to Ukraine. But also it has been mentioned in passing that the US industrial base is not able to manufacture, for example, Patriot systems at a pace which would fulfill these demands. Apparently, it could be more than a year until a new Patriot system actually rolls off the assembly line. In this context, does South Korea, for example, has any equivalents? Which countries in general, would you say, would be able to fill this gap when it comes to availability of sophisticated, state-of-the-art air defense systems?
Well, again, Janusz, when I was stationed in Poland with the Office of Defense Cooperation, we visited quite often our stocks in the desert, what we kept, what we mothballed, for a future use during Cold War or war with China. And I can tell you from my personal opinion, we have an abundance of things that we could give any day. I think it's not a lack of production. I think, and yet the orders are not placed to produce anything. So if we're short of, we should put some orders in it. But it is a political lack. It is unwillingness of politicians to engage. And we were saying that we're short of rounds, yet we're destroying 4 million cluster bombs in the United States. As we're talking, we already utilized over 1 million cluster bombs instead of giving them to rounds, instead of giving them to Ukraine. So I think it's not true. I think we have, to my knowledge, over 1,000 Patriot batteries. And yet Romania, who has 4, is forced to give on a loan basis to Ukraine 1 Patriot battery, which is really sad because as I'm talking to, I hear Ukrainian air defenses working right now. I mean, I can hear them in the background. So they're shooting at something. And I don't understand why 2.5 years into it, now we're saying, oh, okay, well, we're willing to divert, we're willing to give, and yet we don't give anything. On the Rammstein 1, 2 years ago, we were supposed to give everything. 51 countries participated. Yet Ukrainians are saying they're short of everything. They don't have enough. And I can tell because the cities in Ukraine are being bombed and these cities in Ukraine are burning and civilians are dying, because they don't have air defenses, because they don't have enough weapons to push like those controlled bombs, the gliding bombs that they have up to 3 tons. Now they're saying about 5 tons. Where's F-16s that we've been talking about for so long? And again, everybody kept saying Ukraine got $61 billion, $61 billion. 2 months ago, finally that bill was signed and put into law in my country, but yet not much has been delivered. The same thing again, just as always, that minimum that was delivered for the last 2.5 years. So I think it's a political will. It's not an ability to produce. You know, in a capitalist society, if you put money where your mouth is, we will produce.
So overall, this is very much a developing story, and hopefully we'll be hearing about more weapons deliveries to Ukraine, including air defense systems, which are at this point one of the most crucial issues to ensure Ukrainian victory. Gary Tabach was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and, as always, for sharing your expertise.
Thank you.